You've now tuned in to the Drawing Board Podcast, a powerful, thought-provoking discussion where we talk about family, relationships, ministry, community, and career. Let's see what exciting guests we have on our show today. Great evening, great evening, great evening. This is Andre Ebron, the founder and the host of the Drawing Board Podcast. Before we get into our session tonight, there are some updates that I need to bring to you. So the Drawing Board Experience 2020, it is live and effect on Eventbrite right now. You said, who's going to be there speaking? Let me break it down to you. You guys tuned in last week, right, where I had the international businessman who actually is my cousin, Darius Wally Richburg McCaskill. He is a serial entrepreneur. He's a part of the 10X movement with Grant Cardone. He has his own businesses traveling abroad and just affecting change. What did he say? He said deals being done, sales being made, lives being changed, and all will be well. So Darius Wally Richburg will be there. And if you know Boys Hope, Girls Hope of Detroit, Executive Director Dr. Patrice Johnson, she will be there. If you know about, guess what? Focus Hope, the director over there, Dr. Wayman Hayes, he will be there. Of course, you know about Shane Fitness 101. He will be there tearing up the stage with the Step Till You Sweat. And here's an adage I'm going to add on. You didn't know this was coming, but I'll share it with you now. His 9-year-old son, who is an entrepreneur and doing really big things. He's been an entrepreneur visibly for about maybe 4 or 5 months, and he's already had several speaking engagements. This young man is on fire. Here's an added guest that you didn't see on the flyer. Come in, let me tell you about. We have Randy Rosario. She's back for another year to blaze the stage. You know, so we have entertainment, we have arts, and I can't forget my hometown, Fort Wayne. You saw her husband last year, Fresh Laundry, Theopolis Smith. This year, you get a chance to meet his wife, the love of his life, Dawn Smith, with her message and her book entitled Enough. So when you come to the drawing board, you're going to get entertainment, you're going to get inspiration, you're going to leave motivated, and you'll have all of the steps you need to transact and to transform. That's important. Not just to transform, but to transact and to transform. So now that leads me to tonight when we talk about transforming, when we talk about reforming, when we talk about shifting and changing the narrative. I have with me the brothers from the Black Male Educational Alliance of Michigan, the president, Mike Payne. Welcome, sir. Should I call you Mr. President?
No, man. Mike Payne's good. I appreciate you.
Mr. President, Mike Payne. I got a joust with him, son.
Yeah,
really great, brother. Doing a lot of things, and what I love is you can have swag and humility all at the same time, right? So Mike Payne is the embodiment of the swag and the humbleness, all right? And then to my left, I like to call him, listen, he is an intellect walking, always. I love him because he puts even his own thoughts in juxtaposition to cause growth. If you want to see an environment turn into a think tank, all you have to do is put Calvin Nellum there. If you want to see people to be, listen, I don't care even if you get upset. He can handle you being mad, but the question is, are you thinking?
Exactly.
All right? Listen, I love having this brother around. He's no stranger to the Drawing Board Podcast. Help me welcome Calvin Nellum to the stage.
Thank you.
All right, I said to the stage. We on the podcast. It's all good, right? So, man, how's 2020 starting off for you brothers?
Amazing, man. Doing real well, man. Everything's moving in the right direction. So, absolutely, man. So excited. We got some things moving on at the end of the year. So it feels like we've been in 2020 for quite some time, but we got the better half coming up. So I'm really excited. Excited.
Yeah, definitely, man. 2020 has been all right, man. It's been a lot of, people dying and stuff like that. Unfortunately, RP to Kobe, RP to Pop Smoke, but definitely learning, life, you definitely got to treat every day like your last, and really put your best foot forward. So 2020, we're ready for you. Definitely ready for you.
Absolutely. So, man, listen, we all share the vocation and the profession of being black male educators.
Yes,
absolutely.
And the question that I posed on the post that I made is, do we make a significant difference to the educational experience of minoritized students. Notice I didn't say minority students because when we talk about us being minorities, that is someone's perspective of our role in society, but we have been positioned in a way where we have been minoritized. Right? So for you all, that's just common language. But for our listeners, I want to make sure that there's definitely a delineation from someone acknowledging you as a minority and from you embracing the reality of being a minority. For with that comes a complex of inferiority. And so I want to challenge those ideas tonight that you don't allow someone to refer to our children within the city of Detroit as minority students. They definitely have been minoritized, but in no way does their potential indicate that they are a minority. So, brothers, question.
Yes, sir.
What difference are we making within the context of the educational environment?
You want to go, Kyle?
Nah, brother, man, you can go.
All right. So first off, once again, appreciate you having me on the podcast.
Yes, sir.
Representation matters. I think that's the easy layup right there. Representation matters. I think being in the space in the school systems for our black boys and our black girls and even people of other colors to see a black man of intelligence or of leadership or of discipline is important, right? Not only to change the narrative, but also for them to see themselves and what they could be, right? I think oftentimes our youngsters see visions of themselves in entertainment and sports because that's what's available, right? But what else is there to offer? And so kids are in school every day, 180 days of the year. What difference does a black man in the school building, supporting them, loving them, nurturing their intelligence and their creativity, what difference does that make? I think that's self-explanatory. The issue is that we are underrepresented in that teacher profession, just in general. And so my mission with BMEA is to increase that number for the benefit of our students. Absolutely.
So one of the things that I would say is that while representation does matter, being melanated and in masculine form doesn't necessarily mean that you are making the difference that you could make.
Correct.
Right? So it is all about, what I love about BMEA and having come to some of the workshops is the continued learning that you all push forward, the challenge, the iron sharpens iron aspect of being among brothers of your profession that will challenge your ideas, that will encourage you when you need encouraging, that will tell you when opportunities are available for you to hone your craft. So, Cal, tell me, man, as a member, what draws you to BMEA?
I mean, honestly, just the call to action in the organization. I think as black men, we have to be organized. We have to have some plan in place so we can execute it, and not only execute it effectively, recognize that if we don't succeed at the execution, we can come back together, replan, and then do it again. It's about trial and error and staying consistent. You know what I'm saying? So what he's saying, being present, that consistency piece is very, very important. For a lot of our minoritized.
It's all good. Minoritized.
Yes, minoritized students, consistency, unfortunately, sometimes is not always in their lives. I know for me, my dad wasn't in my life, and I can count on a lot of my friends' dads who are also black that weren't in their lives. And so that inconsistency in that parent figure and that family structure, that is the biggest. So imagine how you are growing up and you're trying to figure out what it is to be a man. You're trying to figure out what it is to be a black man in America. You don't have those answers. All you have is what you said, the TV and what the certain people perpetuate. And then all you have is just to do what you think, And so that representation, that consistency, that organization, I think it really allows our kids to, have hope and have faith because a lot of our challenges are very, very hard.
And to piggyback on that, man, representation is the first step, but also effectiveness is the second, right? So it's not that we just want to have black men in education. Like you said, the continued learning and the continued brainstorming and thinking is about, how do we become effective, not only to be there for our students, but to be better for our students and to change education for them, right? That's the overarching goal with BMEA. The theory is if we have more brothers in education, they can see the problem, they can work towards a solution. We can change the curriculum, we can change the policy, we can change how schools treat our kids, how our black boys are being treated, right? We can take more ownership of the education of our own students, right? We're working predominantly black schools or minoritized schools, right? But the adults that are making the decisions aren't predominantly minoritized, right? So we're trying to take more ownership of that so that we can make the right decisions in the best interest of our students.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great movement. Here's the question that I have, because I still have to get it. I have to be honest. I still have to get my 2% shirt. I still need to get it. All right, and and of course that is a glaring statistic that only 2% of this profession is black and brown males, right? And so my question is, how do we begin to pull and draw great talent? Because being an educator, here's what I believe. Here, listen, world, this is what I believe. If you are an educator, you acquire so many transferable skills to any industry for what it is that you do on a daily basis. So how do we acquire great talent, and how do we retain great talent?
I think there are different ways. Part of it is to inspire, right? I think the act of being a black male educator, or the act of being an educator in this system is an act of social justice. So it's you trying to do what's right for your community, right?
Right.
This profession, which wasn't even my original first profession, this profession is the most fulfilling thing that I've done in my life, right? So I find passion in it, I find purpose in it, I find fulfillment and joy in what I'm able to bring to my students, to the people around me every day, right? And I can't describe that to other people, but I can expose them to it, and I can sell them my own idea. So once they get that piece and they get a little bit of it and they can do it effectively, that's when they'll stay. Because I think you have the misconceptions of education, which most people see from a distance, right? Low pay, kids are going crazy, it's the work environment, stress, they can't do it, right? But if you are successful in what you're doing, it's one of the best jobs to have.
Yes.
Right? You can move up, you can make money, you can take control of a school or a district, whatever the case may be. And oftentimes a lot of us do actually move into administration and run schools and things like that. The issue is just not enough of us.
Right.
So if we are doing well, we move up, and then we leave that space open for a teacher to have to fill that void. And it's not often it's a black male, right? So we need enough of us to be able to fill in all those spaces of curriculum development, of principals and deans and educators, and not just, oftentimes we've been used for discipline, but being able to be a person of intellect and academic, right? Our kids have to see that so they can say, I can do that too.
Yeah.
Right? We can't say that black boys don't want to be teachers, black male teachers, they never saw one.
Right.
I never had a black male teacher, so I went to Morehouse College.
All right.
Never had a black male teacher, so I went to Morehouse College, right? But I worked with kids in high school at Boys and Girls Club and tutoring when I was in college, like at the Boys and Girls Clubs again. And so once I got a chance to give back and I really got to see what was happening in the schools, I was like, I can't sit by and let that happen. So it called me in, like I said, call to action, and I've been with it ever since.
Yeah.
What I love, because I don't want to just go, because you said so many great things in that moment, but what I really want to highlight is you said being a black male educator within this particular system is an act of social justice. And I think if you haven't coined that or quoted that, I'm putting that out there. Somebody put that in the comments for Mike, because I think that it's important that because everybody talks about social justice, social reform, but they don't necessarily know what industry to engage to bring about the most change. So I feel that if you really want to talk about shifting or changing the future, that working with children is the easiest and greatest avenue that you can work in. Now, talk to me. You said this was not your first. This was not the first industry that you chose. What led you? Why do you teach?
So think about, because this is part of our problem, right? If we have a black male who does well in school, right, what do they tell him to be? Doctor,
lawyer,
engineer, lawyer, right?
Yeah.
So I went to Morehouse College for engineering. I was good at math, but I wasn't inspired. That wasn't my passion, right? So I'm doing it because people told me to do it. Changed my major. Got out in a recession, and I was just doing jobs. I worked at a bank for a little while. I just was working. I wasn't really doing, so then I was like, maybe I should start entrepreneurship. Don't really have any idea how that goes. And so, what I said, I need to go back to school and kind of like take some time to figure things out.
Right.
So I got an opportunity to go to get a free master's in a teaching certification program, right? So I said, I'll teach for a couple of years, get my master's.
Yeah.
It'll give me some more time to kind of think while I'm also working and doing something important, right?
Right.
I had always thought, when I make my millions and I get old, I'll give back to the community. Now I'll work with kids.
Yeah.
But I was like, let me do it first. I'll work in the classroom. But once I got in there, I was hooked, right? Having a problem that you can't solve, right? But being in front of kids and seeing the issues and seeing that they need somebody, right? And then also seeing the result of you making their day or you helping them or you being that person they just needed that day. Like, you can't buy that. So it like I said, it lured me in. And once I realized like the urgency and importance of it, it's became my calling to do and my mission. And so that's also the spark of what BMEA came. Is like, well, we have more brothers who are inspired like I was, excuse me, we can make a bigger difference as a whole, right?
Agreed. So, Cal, tell me, man, how did you end up in this teaching profession?
Man, I just watched Lean on Me.
Okay.
That was really it, man. Lean on Me was like, honestly, like I was like, yeah, I definitely want to be that. Yeah. My mom was an educator for 30 years. She told me, education, you gotta have it. That's your tool, Nellum. You gotta have it. So either way, you're gonna do it. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I could be a principal. Maybe I could be like Forrest Whitaker, you know. And so coming down what he was saying, I was also in STEM, physics, science, research. I was supposed to go to engineering school and make the foldable phones and stuff like that, you know, make a whole bunch of money. But my passion, you know, my love, I didn't have a call to action. I just was making a lot of money, and I was an engineer wearing Clarks, you know, but, you know, I didn't really have like a call to action. And I remember I was doing it was a all-girls engineering camp at Norfolk State University. It was for free. Literally, we made these like solar panels, and I literally had like 13 little black girls with me, and we were building. We made like 15 solar panels, and before you know it, it was 7 hours done passed. And I'm like, yeah, we got this, boom. Okay, we got the fifth solar panel, boom, boom, boom. 7 hours done passed. I called my mom. I'm like, yo, Mom, like, I really love teaching. I really love, like, leading kids. I love having, like, a problem that my kid has. They don't know how to solve it. I teach them in a simplistic way. They're like, oh, my gosh, I get it now. And then they end up having confidence. And that confidence, that belief, that hope, that can just be multiplied exponentially, you know? And I think, you know, I do that every single day. And I'm not doing it perfectly every single day. And I always have my losses sometimes, you know, but it's a part of the job, but I'm getting better every single day, and I love what I do.
Absolutely. So for me, when I listen to, when we talk about how black male educators are generally leveraged for discipline, right?
Yeah.
And so to any black male educator, I know you might be feeling the pressure right now. You're inside of whatever school, whether it's a K-8 or you're in a high school, and they want you to be the big bad wolf, right? They want you to come in and they want you to yell and scream and intimidate with size. Here's what you can do is you can bring them to the actual definition of discipline, which means to teach.
Yes.
And so what you can do through restorative practices. I'm a big advocate for restorative practices. I know people, you know, have their different views. What you can do through social and emotional learning tools, what you can do through conflict resolution, all of those different things are a mode of teaching. When people say that they want discipline, what they generally want is a punitive consequence. That's purely what they want. They want you to give them a punitive consequence that in some way brings a justification to whoever they had an interaction with that I am in power. And so restorative practices leverages, it makes everybody equal in the environment. Although our roles might be different, we are all community members.
And I just want to add to like that empathy aspect and when he was talking about just because you're black doesn't mean you're effective. But I think because you're black, it allows you to be more empathetic because you probably grew up or can relate to those scholars that are similar to you. You know, like Detroit is culturally different from New York. New York is culturally different from New Orleans. Those black people living in those different cities are culturally different. But in certain sense, we kind of all come from the same struggle, right? And so being a black male educator, that allows you to have that empathy. Like, man, like, you know, I remember that. Yeah. You know what? I'm not going to probably give you this attention because, you know, I'm going to try to give you, you know, I'm going to be more empathetic, you know, not sympathetic, you know, putting myself in your shoes because we were probably in those shoes. You probably wore those same shoes. The effectiveness comes from using that empathy and taking the best practices, practicing with consistency, being organized, and implement it in an effective way. I think that is really the true power. That high expectation, you know, letting scholars know, like, yeah, you know, I love you, you know, you just like me, we listen to the same music, but you're going to get this work done. I'm not going to, you know, what's the word? What am I trying to say? I'm not going to, like, let you
off the hook.
Slap. Yeah, I'm not going to let you off the hook. Oh, he's cool. You know, they give you that stamp. Oh, he's cool. You know, he's cool. Yeah, I'm cool, but we also going to have high expectations. We can get this stuff done because I understand where you're coming from, but I also know we probably got to work 3 times hard to get this job done, and so let's get it done.
Oh, that's good. What you say, Mike?
One of the biggest things I always tell people is, like, we haven't changed the way we've done school since the 1800s.
At all.
That's right.
And think about where we were in the 1800s.
Absolutely.
So now being in a social construct at school, like, you're able to identify as a black man what are the things that are impeding the success or the happiness or the confidence or the creativity of that black boy or girl, right? And so the idea is, are you going to be an overseer of the system or are you going to be a liberator?
Oh, that's good.
You have the power
Put that
to
in
do
the
that.
comments.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Are you
Please
going to be
quote
an
me.
overseer or a liberator?
Right, so you have that power now. As a dean, they want you to discipline, right? Not thinking what discipline is, right? They want you to make machines out of our kids or make their kids comply to whatever it is the system is asking them. But you have the opportunity to say, hey, this is not right for our kids.
Yeah.
This is what they need. This is what they're missing, right? Because it isn't a one-stop shop or a one-size-fits-all for education, right? But because we can empathize and because we can see ourselves, that's why I ask my teachers all the time, do you see yourself in your students? If you don't, then all your practices, all your procedures, everything that you're thinking, it doesn't humanize who's in front of you.
That's good.
That relationship
You know what I mean?
piece.
That relationship piece, right? And so having black men in the building, having black women, having diversity or just representation is important for all those reasons, right? For students to have someone that they can relate to, have someone that empathizes with them, and have someone that can stand up for them. Right, our kids don't have a voice in the school system. They don't have much choice.
So,
right?
So one thing Cal just said was that your empathy makes you effective, but it doesn't excuse you from having high expectations.
Right, right.
Put that in the comments. So your empathy, literally, these nuggets need to be, because going in, you can imagine first year teacher going into a school. Everybody has an expectation of you being hired. I happen to be in one of the, I think, ideal situations where most of my middle school teachers are black males. We have one sister, and we try to explain to the students that some of us went our entire educational experience never having a black male teacher.
Right.
The as close to a black male teacher that students may have come is the custodial engineer, or maybe have had a gym teacher,
right?
But
coach.
As far as a coach or something like that. And I'm not minimizing any of those positions because those positions are huge.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is instructing them academically. Most of the people who are teaching now did not have that experience. I was having a conversation with one of my teachers today, and we were talking about how challenging the day could be, and talking about all of the fires that you have to put out, all of the different things that come up in the lives of our children. And we went through a list of about 8 kids that are in one class that all come from some very challenging circumstances as it relates to home, being able to self-regulate, et cetera, et cetera. And it was like, there's no education going on in this room. And I knew this teacher is amazing. And I knew it was just a moment of frustration to say, I have so much to pour into them, and I feel like I'm not able to get to the crux of what I really have to give. And I challenge, and I gracefully challenge and say, well, you may not be able to pour all of the academic portion that you have, but let me reassure you that you are providing an education.
Exactly.
Right. Are they learning?
Yeah.
Right. Are they learning? Content is not learning.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so, man, you're talking about acquiring the social skills necessary.
Soft skills.
The soft skills necessary in order to thrive and grow.
Right.
One kid, man, it was funny. Just to give an example, and then I want you guys to jump into what can we do? What is the call to action for the young brothers that are out there that are watching that hadn't considered education as a pathway? Because literally, like, we are in demand, within this field to be able to navigate and go where we want to go. But we must ally ourselves or become allies with one another to lift each other as we climb.
Right.
So this young man, he has not successfully made it through a full day. Because I mean, he has some huge challenges, from homelessness to having a parent who has some cognitive challenges, to having a dad that is transient in and out of his life, to having experienced gross trauma. I know trauma is the buzzword, but no, when I say trauma, I'm talking about real traumatic experiences that fractures a child's innocence and causes them to compartmentalize their emotions in such a way that they take control of any environment that will not give them a punitive consequence. So that's what I mean, so people don't just use it as a buzzword. And so he came in.
So smart, man.
And he came in, and he was like, Mr. Ebron, I didn't sleep at all last night because there was a lot of arguing. He says, I'm hungry, so we got him something to eat. I got him a little bit of coursework, and he entertained it for a while. I let him take like a 15-minute nap. He got back up. He was able to function and move. And he was so proud that he made it throughout the whole day without a phone call home, that he was walking in the hallway doing the Fred Sanford walk. Like, oh, I can't wait to tell my mom and dad. And while, of course, looking on, you might say, why is that a victory?
Yeah.
Like, hey, show me the ditto sheet. Show me what work did he complete. This young man was able to find success in knowing that he belonged at my school. So, man, talk to me. What role, man, does the African-American, the black male, like, is there a true space of belonging within the context of this educational system?
I mean, I felt like you just said it, right? I felt
right.
like
I mean,
that.
you know, I had to throw it out there because I want perspective, right?
We can make school a community,
That's
right?
good.
And I think when you're talking about kids and really raising kids, them learning, become adults and become educated, whatever the case may be, it's raising, right? And the more the school feels like community, because the two things kids need is feel safe and to feel wanted.
That's good. Comments.
Right? Safe and wanted. So if we're able to create that space in our schools and we're able to make the change so that our schools can feel that way, because we cannot identify that our schools are quote unquote failing, right? Not doing as well as they could be.
Right.
According to the standardized test.
Right.
Okay.
Which doesn't have any representation in terms of who's writing that.
Are you right?
But,
absolutely.
But even in my evaluation of how kids feel about school and how kids feel about themselves in school, right? They don't feel they belong. They don't feel like their culture is the culture of the school. They don't feel like what they want to do fits into what what school is asking of them, and that can't be right. Kids can't go from 4 to 18 in a building or a place that they don't feel like they belong at, because then they can feel like they don't belong in this country.
Right. So I'm telling you, and I knew we were going to bring him up. So, Brother Emden, I knew we were going to bring him up because he talks about leaving your culture on the outside of the door, right?
Yeah.
He talks about reality pedagogy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I got a chance. I was privileged to be in a workshop he was facilitating when I worked for a certain charter school organization, and we shared that same space. And he was talking about Emden's work. And one of the things that I love that you brought up is that he said Rainbow still it does go over the projects as well.
Yep.
So, man, talk about like what role, because I am the Dean of Culture and Climate, right?
Yeah.
And that is a loaded title, and it means a whole lot of things to a whole lot of people. And the context of what it is that I do. What's funny is and this is what I believe. You guys pitch in. I think the dean role is in the building is the best and the worst role.
So it's a tough role. We didn't have our dean today, and it was out the chain in the hallway today.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so where you at, man?
No, it's a tough role. It is.
The dean role is
Absolutely.
I am the person most loved to see coming when fires are there, and I am the worst person to see when I tell you that I need your 6 to 8 weeks of documentation of interventions before we move this child up a tier or decide to exclude them from the environment.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I the most loved person when I'm fostering community and PBIS is going great and we're having all type of assemblies, and I'm the worst person that says, no, this kid is coming back to your room.
Right.
So in thinking about that, man, and talking about Emden's work and talking about the culture of Detroit specifically, what role, man, do we have as black male educators to embody or welcome that culture into, not just into our classroom, but into our lessons?
I think it just comes from knowing that you are a revolutionary. You know, you are like Obama said, education is a civil rights issue of our time. Like, you are a civil rights advocate. You are not only teaching the content, but you are fighting injustices, you know, socially, physically, mentally, and academically. Understanding that, as Huey P. Newman says, you are committing revolutionary suicide, where you are sacrificing yourself, right? Because it is a sacrifice,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
For a better cause, right? To revolve, to fix the current system and hopefully revolve it and change it versus being reactionary.
Okay.
Where you are kind of just a part of the system and you're moving with it, but you're not being proactive about it. Recognizing that if you are being revolutionary and you have a revolutionary mindset, you always have to have the third way or try to find the third way and know that if the first way didn't work, the second way didn't work, I got to figure out the third way. If the test didn't get him motivated, if me talking to him directly didn't get him motivated, maybe I got to talk to his mom. I might need to go home. I might need to have a home visit. Digging deep and getting stuck with the community where Eminem talks about cosmopolitanism and taking your scholar's culture and bringing it to your classroom. You cannot do that from a teacher's eyes lens because you're not of that culture. Yeah. You have to put yourself in there. Yeah. You have to get connected with the mom. You have to get connected with the dad and the cousins and you have to dig deep. I spoke to you about this on how I was talking to my wife that we leave this profession or we leave teaching. It's kind of like we jump in the water forgetting there's sharks in the pool.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you knew when you came here that this was a city that has been dehumanized through racism, through white flight, through segregation, through redlining, 30 years of drugs, just so many things that have took the city, and when it took it from being the most richest places in the world to not being that anymore. You knew that it was more than just teaching math and science or English. You had to know that, right?
You
should have known that.
Considered it.
You know that when you're teaching these scholars, you're not only fixing academic deficiencies, you're fixing mental deficiency or cultural deficiencies, emotional deficiencies. Mm-hmm. So you got to come equipped. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to have more on your belt, and you have to be proficient and effective in all those skills and fight every single day as like a revolutionary until someone else leaves it. But if you're revolutionary, right, you're going to leave a legacy for someone else to, you know what, Mike Payne ain't there no more, Nullum ain't there no more, I'm going to pick it up now, and I'm going to keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? Huey did, Stokely Carmichael did, but we still talking about them today because what they left was so revolutionary, we kept it moving, right? Because it's about the village. It takes a village to fix the problem that we're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it takes a village to raise a child, so imagine what it takes to raise a whole school. You know?
So here's the question that I have. That was amazing. You should have had all kind of comments. Go back, replay, press the comments, right? So here's the question that I have for all educators that are listening, but particularly black male educators. When we talk about moving from a deficit mindset to an asset mindset, I was having a conversation among about 100+ deans, and we were having a conversation about trauma. I am real big about
it's
addressing
a big topic
trauma
today,
right?
And that's good though. That's very good.
Because here's the thing. I was saying that sometimes your perspective of my situation really makes me a victim because I didn't see it the way you saw it.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yes. I said, when you look at a person's situation, when we talk about trauma, I said sometimes your perspective of my situation victimizes me because I didn't see it the way you saw it.
For example,
you'll hear a lot of successful people talk now. In retrospect, they said, when I was growing up, I didn't know that I was poor. But if I come in and I tell you and I have a conversation with a student and I'll say, well, his family has a financial deficit that causes him to behave in such a way. Did you know that you were poor? And then it causes, now, it may be a reality that they may be on, the old school is AFDC. They may be on some type of government assistance, right? But the reality is if they make it to your school, inside of your building, no matter what it is that they were combating before, you have a fresh opportunity to engage their life.
Yeah. And I think, going back to what he said about sympathy versus empathy, like, if I know where you come from, I'm not feeling sorry for you, but I'm also, what I'm saying is, I know how hard you need to work.
Exactly.
Right? I know where you're coming from. I know what you're dealing with. So I feel you, and I'll give you grace and mercy, right?
Right.
But I also know that you got to work twice as hard because you don't have the same thing that people think you have, or people might have in other places, other schools, other cities, right? You're going to have to work twice as hard than the other kid at Michigan State when you get there, right? So it's a part of it is like, I understand your struggle, and I'm going to help you overcome it, not feel bad for you, let you wallow in your pity, and then not give you any solutions or any tools to dig yourself out. Does that make sense?
And there's beauty in the struggle too. You know, like J. Cole said, there's beauty in the struggle, knowing that a lot of my scholars who walk in 10-degree weather and they have to go from home and then they might not have everything they have at home and they still wake up every single day and put a smile on their face the best way that they can. That takes a lot of just grit. You know what I'm saying? A mental just discipline. And 13-year-old, 11-year-olds, 10-year-olds, they're doing that just off the regular. So you have to look and see that the beauty in their struggle, that if they're able to do that, all right, let me give you some tools. Let me give you a little bit of things that you can go back into that community and do the exact same thing. That's what Huey did. That's what Bobby Still did. They were just educated. They read, they took their information, they found the beauty in their culture, because where these kids are from is beautiful. Their culture is so beautiful. If it wasn't beautiful, you wouldn't have all these people coming in trying to take it.
To emulate it.
Emulate it.
And to your point, I don't think our kids know how strong they are.
And they don't know how strong they are because they take it for granted.
But where do they see? Where in school are they celebrated? Right? If they're not doing well academically, how are they celebrated? Right?
Yeah,
if they don't have a chance to be on the team, how is their strength how is their creativity being celebrated? How is their grit being celebrated? You know what I mean?
And so as the educator, you have to take the culture of those scholars, find the power in that, and bring it to the classroom and allow that beautiful amalgamation into something revolutionary where you are making and changing lives like we're doing every single day, you know? And I think that's what makes this job super, 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 because you changing lives, like literally changing lives, bro. And it's something that is super priceless that no matter how much money you want, you can buy. It's nothing, man. It's nothing.
And to Calvin had at an earlier point too, man, about being able to see the problem and be a revolutionary in how to change it.
Okay.
And like with BMEA, when we started the fellowship, which he was a part of in 2019, the idea was if we get the brothers together, right, give them the tools to help solve problems, that they can take their knowledge and their passion to spark the fire that creates the change in their schools, right? And so in this next fellowship, 2020,
Tupac,
right, we're looking to help our black male educators not only be the think tank for themselves, right, in their own solutions, but also give them the tools to be more culture responsive, because we know the things that's given them to them in schools isn't already engaging our students, right?
It's not
How
enough.
can I help? It's not enough. How can I help
enough.
Calvin make his room what he wants it to be, right? He can try to do it on his own, but how much more effective it would be if we supported him in that? How much more effective it would be if it was 5, 6, 7, 10 brothers with similar situations, or with insight, or with intel, or with curriculum, or with tricks of the trade? You know what I mean? I've learned so much from the brothers that joined the fellowship, as they've learned from me, right? Or as I was able to share with our support. So it's important, like you said before, this community, this village of not just black men in schools, but being together, right? This conversation, right? Feel how that pushes us so much further than us being by ourselves, right? And that's important.
And we gotta call some people out. We just gotta call people out that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and let them know you need to feel ashamed for doing this, because we at war, man, and we at war mentally, physically. We at war with just our kids and our culture, and we have to recognize that we are fighting, and we have to push and not be scared, not be scared to fail, not be scared to try and be different, not be scared and try to be revolutionary for kids that need it, man. Because the enemy, they organize. You know what I'm saying? They got what they know what they're gonna do. They got the routines. They know what they're gonna do. But we have to be organized and be prepared, man, because if not, man, we're not going to be able to survive. And I know that sounds really morbid,
I mean, but it's for the kids.
It's for the kids, it's all for the kids.
We're planting seeds now, and shout out to your garden too. We're planting seeds now.
Thank you. Yeah,
we're planting seeds now for our future, right? Things we might not be able to see or to reap the benefits of, but it's for our children, right? What I'm doing now, I want the success and the rewards of that to be 10, 20 years from now, right? So that my kids or my kids' kids can benefit from the work we put in now. Because it's not a 1 year battle. It ain't an overnight battle.
No, it's not.
No.
It's not a sprint. It's a marathon, but it's really a race that just continues.
Yes.
And one of the things
Nipsey.
The marathon continues.
The marathon continues. Absolutely. One of the things that I enjoy in being around you brothers and having come to the different events is the fellowship that occurs just on the human level, right?
Yeah.
So I believe in society in some ways, the being a teacher a lot of times removes your humanity. I believe that if you are not careful to maintain that human perspective, then you start to see numbers, right?
But it's the most important job, and so you got to know that.
Yeah.
It is the most important job. And if you don't recognize that, then
you become an overseer.
You become
Absolutely.
an overseer, man.
So here's the thing, though. So when we talk about no, you're good. When we talk about westernized culture, and I look at how other cultures value their teachers because they understand the quality of their future is based upon the person that's educating them. One of the things that I would like to ask is, in founding and being now the president of BMEA, articulate for me, and I'm talking about totally boundless, without restrictions, without barriers, not considering any restraints. Paint a picture for me, brothers, of what the ideal educational environment for our children, just your vision of what that would actually look like.
Well, I like we said earlier, it would be community, right? Our roots are rooted in collectivism, which the whole is more important than the individual.
Exactly.
Right? And so this idea that you have elders, you have folks that have content knowledge or whatever that are around the children, supporting them not only in that knowledge but in their growth as an individual, right? Schools need to be a place where my creativity is my worth, right? My individuality is my worth, not how well I do on a physics test.
Yeah.
Right? We have to be also getting our kids ready for the next we have to get our kids ready for what we're not even experiencing yet, right?
Okay.
So it isn't about what we know or what we've learned, but it's also about what skills do they need to have to survive without us.
So how do we do that though?
We gotta listen to them. It is so one direction in schools where it's just us telling them it's not a community. You think about a community conversation. When you're talking, we're learning from each other. It isn't just him talking to me, right?
I agree.
I'm asking questions. I'm saying things. He's talking back, right? We learn, and it states culturally like we best learn from oratorily because of conversation, right? But it has to be some duality in it. Like it has to be both, not just us, but everyone, not just the adults, but kids gotta have input and buy-in or just some investment in their own education, in their own and how school looks. So I think boundlessly, school for me is the center of the community where kids are coming places they want to be at, where there are people that love them there, that are nurturing whatever it is that they need, right? I can go wherever room I want to go to, and I can find an adult in there that not only cares about me, but will talk to me about what I need to hear for that moment, right? Okay. If it's a psychologist, if it's a gardener, if it's an engineer, if it's whatever. And that's the other thing. Like we also have to start thinking outside the box in terms of what school looks like, period. Yeah. Is it just going to be math, science, English classes from now on? Or are we really going to kind of dig deep into like, what is it that our kids really need to know?
And then I think also like we have to have a viable economic system that the education system can give those people those jobs for, but that economic system has to be there. So I think that investment in a community, so talking to the black billionaires, the ones that have all those monies who can provide those jobs, maybe finding the community, finding the school, and investing in that school and the community, because if you don't invest in the school, you're not investing in the community. You don't invest in the community, you're not investing in the school. So we all have to make sure that we are being strategic and we're focused on ourselves. We're not focused on that what they're doing, but we have one mission and we're organized and focused on making sure that our scholars are proficient in reading, writing, and arithmetic, making sure that they know how to do their taxes, making sure that they get a job when they graduate, and ensuring that they take that money and they put it back. They keep their dollar in their community, right? Because that's also significant too, right? Like the jobs that our kids are giving their money to, the owners of those jobs don't look like them, and it's right by them. Like the gas station, like it's right by them. And so that is like a complete contradiction, right? It's kind of like, I'm giving you this money, but you don't live in my neighborhood. How are you helping my neighborhood? And so just the economic aspect, I think, is super, super important.
And where do kids learn that, right? Think about that, too. We're not even teaching kids about their own community and how they're living within the moment of time. Like kids are dealing with real life educational experiences outside of school, and then coming to school and learn something completely different. Right. So what I'm teaching you isn't, not only is it like not culturally responsive, but it's irrelevant to like what I need to know. Yep. Like what do I need to know to survive within now and the next 15 years, right? In my community. And am I learning that in school? Right.
And then adding that Afrocentric piece, what he said, where we're more of we're together and we're more communal. African people, we're communal people. We do everything together. You know what I'm saying? And so if you read the Black Destruction of Civilization by Chancellor Williams, he talks about how the old African Constitution, it was a systems based. Like every age had its own stage where the 1 through 5-year-olds, they did something. The 13 through 19-year-olds, they did something. After you graduated 19, you didn't just go off and went somewhere else. You went to another school. And then when you got 30, you also went to another school. When you got 40, you had some type of SAGE program. It was like all organized. It was all communal, and everything that they learned was benefiting the community, right? And that gives you that purpose. Like you said, I think that purpose is what a lot of scholars, you can get a scholar that has a 4.5, right? But they have no common sense. They have no street smarts. They have no ability to actually effectively change their communities because they were taught just content, but not how to problem solve, not how to fix real world problems because the purpose is not connected to the curriculum. That makes sense?
It does make sense. So here's
Did we answer your question?
No, no,
that's a hard question.
No, it is a very hard question.
And the reason that I asked it though is the drawing board is all about reimagining the possibilities. So I'm thinking every day as I go into my work environment, am I exhausting all of the possibilities within my current opportunity? Like that's what, so I'm looking for opportunities to create new engagement as it relates to parental values. So how is it that, or I guess here's a better way to frame it. How do we cause a spark within parental and student values to be able to, I'm trying to figure out how I want to ask this, so I'm just going to say it. How do we get people to value education again?
Yeah.
And is what we're calling education like truly learning that is necessary for us, to your point? And how do we restructure that in our current system to cause our children to thrive? What bridge do we build between what it is that we're mandated to do and what it is that we know our children need?
Culture, man. Like culture is really, really important.
Super important.
You have to, first of all, find power in the culture and then try to hone that culture and elevate it and multiply it and use that to your advantage and allow other scholars to use their culture to their advantage as well. So they're just culturally being themselves, but at the same time, they're learning, they're building a community, and they're keeping each other safe. That mental aspect of knowing that your culture is welcome and you are wanted, that creates so much like just mental relief, you know, like that makes a safe space. It creates a safe haven, right? And when you have a safe haven, you have growth, you have creativity, you have inspiration, you have things that can build new innovative ideas to our everyday problems. You know what I'm saying? Like climate change is a huge problem, but we haven't, you know, like a lot of people don't believe in it. Sanitation is a huge problem. A lot of people don't, you know, so like a lot of issues that we have to make sure that we have the culture behind it so people can, I don't know what I'm saying.
No, I got you. I think people need to find success in school again.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Oftentimes you get a kid that's acting up in school and the parents push back or disconnect isn't because they don't care about the kids, but because the parents remember when they struggled in school too. Yeah. There's a feeling in their heart and their gut about how they feel about the school as a construct in the first place.
That's it.
So it's like you were saying about culture. Like culturally, school has to feel home again.
It has to change.
It's got to feel part of the community, right? So how do we do that? Is the question. What does it look like to make school fit in again, right? For school to be a piece of like the church, like like your workplace, whatever the case may be. How does school fit in? Because it's going to be there forever. Like kids got to learn. But if kids are going and parents are going and the feeling they're getting out there is negative energy, then it isn't going to. It's not that we don't value education. I think that might be a misconception that people don't value the education. Is that they don't buy into the place they got to send their kids.
Yeah. And if one Detroit school fails, we all fail. You know what I'm saying? Like we all need to be in this together, right? I remember like I used to hear stories about DPS. It was like it was a conglomerate of schools and everyone went here and went there and this amazing rich black city and it had all this power, you know, like that stuff matters. Now we have parents, so I'm gonna take them out to school. I'm gonna bring them to this school now. No, that school is bad. I'm gonna take it to this school, but it's the school of your community. You know, if you're not investing in that school, you're not investing in your community. So really, really like just everything gonna be perfect, but just having faith and trusting in the principal and, like you said, building that connection with that school.
And so what BMEA does, like with those quarterly events, which are open to the public, right? What we were doing was not only opening it up for educators to learn, get some professional development, or also have a space to talk, but open it up to people in the community to see what do our educators talking about, like what do they care about, what are some issues going on that are dire to the community. Just like you, BMEA started a podcast recently. We're going to open up soon that called Lifting Our Voices, which is kind of just giving out like what is going on in education for the community. What do they need to know, right?
Yeah. What's
going on? Having some kids on there so they can share their voice and their opinion. What's going on? Like what BMEA is trying to do to change it, because it's part of, like I said, part of us trying to increase the number of black males is to improve schools. So while we have the black males that we have, how do we improve schools, right? How do we make this place a better place so that you want to be there, right? Part of retention is like you gotta like where you work at.
Right.
That's right.
I don't want to take no brother into no place that's a hellhole. You know what I mean? Excuse my word.
Good.
But I want to take you to a place or put you in a place where you can be successful, right? That you can shine and that you can feel where like you mean something. And sometimes that's hard because of the constructs above it, like because of the powers that be. But it's important that if people are going to invest back in the schools, the community, it has to be back in the community, right? Schools need to be more involved in what's happening in the areas, right?
And know.
Right, in the know. Like it can't be so disconnected. The teachers got to be in the community, right?
Yeah.
Right. We got to have events that parents and kids can come to and feel welcome. That it's not just a place of dread.
Right.
That's really what it is. It's gotta kind of dig deeper back into the community, man.
Yep.
No, I agree.
And that takes a lot of work.
It does.
Yeah, I have worked at schools where I'm a community guy. Like I'm just a community guy at heart. And so if I'm going to be here, well, the community will keep your school safe. They will. And so I went and I made sure that I introduced myself to the neighbors where the school was across the street or around the corner. And to hear them say, man, do you know I've been living over here for 35 years, and you are the first person who has, come to and knocked on my door. And I know people talk about the safety of being, of going door to door. And you have to know your environment. You have to know where you are. But if you are afraid of the community where you work, you should work somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because if you are afraid of the community where you work, the children that you serve come and live within that community, which you will also be afraid of the children you serve.
Yep.
And so, listen, we have about 5 minutes left, brothers. I am so proud of the work that you all are doing.
Thank you.
Proud
of you too, man.
Appreciate it,
Definitely
man.
proud of you.
To be a co-laborer, amongst brothers that I know that are making a difference, who are taking, the empathy and becoming more effective, who are looking at all of the situations, leveraging their relationship with the students to build a healthy culture where children feel like they belong. That matters, to take the charge and the call to action to do something about it, to reimagine the way we look at education and to re-involve the community, because education is a communal aspect of our living and our growing. Right. We can talk about, I'm sure there are some pedagogical approaches that involve community and collectivism, and you are the expert on that. But before we run there, tell me, brothers, where can we get in touch with you? Throw out your socials.
So BMEA, I'm Mike Payne at BMEA. Well, at Mike Payne BMEA. That's my IG. Same thing. You find me on Facebook at Mike Payne. Follow us. Follow BMEA of Michigan on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We have the podcast coming out soon. You can catch us in a couple of weeks, Lifting Our Voices. And if you are a black male educator, please go on the Facebook page. And find information about our fellowship. Deadline is March 10th. This guy right here can speak true to the fellowship, man. He's a part of it. And you can email me at payne@bmeofmichigan.org for any information you need about BMA, the organization.
All right, Cal, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at teachsimple.com, at teachsimple.com, at teachsimple at Twitter, and you can find me on IG, Dr. Nellermiser -27. I'm also coming out with a podcast called Teach Simple, where we talk about simplistic ways to solve complex problems, and it's coming from a teacher point of view. So whether if you're struggling with classroom management or if it's just burnout, we try to be empathetic and like give our point of view so you can have hope and do the best you can do, because you have the hardest job in the world. So
I'm gonna be on there.
Yes,
yeah, I'm on there too. I'm on both podcasts. I'm on lifting our voices, and I'm on Teach Simple.
Absolutely.
And he's gonna build out a website called teachsimple.com.
Yep, teachsimple.com.
But hey, we're out of time. So as I always tell you, your future is not behind you. It is not before you. It is within you. And I'm Andre Ebron. God bless. Woo.
All right, give me 1 second.
That's some hard questions, man.